All right, sit back, relax. It's time for another Laneway Talks.
Good morning, Rob, and welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you?
I'm good, Vince. Good morning to you. Thanks for having me again.
Well, it's good to go on to series 4 in a sense here because, we had a couple of series prior doing our artists, and then series 3 was Laneway Talks with Vincent and Rob, and we've had our hiatus and gone into series 4, so this will be episode 1. So a bit of a milestone, eh?
Of series 4. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
wow. Well, and we've got Vision on, we're recording Vision on this, so we'll see how that comes up too, okay?
Same thing here. I've got Virgin Soldiers T-shirt that I got from Laneway Music.
Ah, right, okay. Look, there's been a lot going on in the last couple of weeks where we've had a bit of a holiday. I think I'll start off with Laneway Red, and Laneway Red has gone live, and we are just about to start marketing it next week. Now, what we've done in this past period where it has been live but hasn't been pushed hard is trying to iron out the bugs, and there was a lot of bugs. And then we even got down to a few things where downloads, people would pay for a download and then they would share out that download. So, of course, that's not fair to the artist. And so we've had to put in a few more checks there. So, there's been quite a few things where you think you've thought about everything, but it comes out that you haven't. So We've arrested a lot of those issues. Now, we are having a meeting on the weekend and we will discuss the next moves because there's a long pipeline of, let's call them plugins, which will come in to this package. But I think the big things that we'll be discussing next will be bringing in all the colour and depth to a release, so that being things like, all the liner notes being available to everybody, more pictures, things that go round, let's call it round the CD. And, you get it in various ways on the other DSPs or digital service providers, but we'll do it in our way. So that'll be the next thing that comes to give it a bit of colour and flavour. But it's been a very rewarding. It's been very time consuming. We've been extremely busy, so it's put a lot of pressure because we have Laneway Music, which is making its releases, and then we have Laneway Red, which we need to then duplicate these on and then market with both the DSPs, so let's use Spotify, and then Laneway Red. So, it's all moving along. We've set our KPIs fairly long term, and that's 12 months. 12 months of, we don't expect anything to go haywire for 12 months or to go totally out of control where we can't handle it. So it'll be a slow but sure move forward every step of the way. So we're, I think, doing it correctly. So that's happening there. What's been going on with you, Rob?
I've just been having a week of convalescence, really. I haven't been well.
Sorry to hear that.
I've just been resting and not teaching and not working and reading books, actually. I've finished up Craig Horn's I'll Be Gone once again. It's the third read I've had of that.
Oh, fantastic.
It's a Laneway artist, of course, and it's about another Laneway artist, which is Mike Rudd and Spectrum. And so, that was very good. I've communicated with Craig over the past week or so and having a bit of a chat about the different topics that he brings up in his book. And I think it was really good actually reading it. And then I was listening to Mike Rudd's catalogue on Laneway Red while I was reading the book. I like to do that with the books that I read, sort of listen to the artist's work that you're reading about. And Mike Rudd's body of work is phenomenal. Just Aerial, I was listening to at that particular point. And that, I think it's the second album.
First album was where they had a minor hit, but it had quite a bit of a hit in the UK. Then it went to Rock and Roll Scars, which was one recorded at Abbey Road. And then,
that's great.
Yeah, then the third album. Yeah, it is a great cover, and the recording is really good. But there's a lot of downsides to that from Mike's perspective, how it was done and what happened with the record label. But still, I like it. And then, there was the third one. So,
the thing that I talked about with Craig was, and about his book, about how he links what's happening and what was written about. And you say about, Mike was disappointed with the recordings at Abbey Road, but when they got to London at that period of time, which was the mid to
I'd
late
be 77, 75, 76, 77, 75 maybe.
Yeah.
74 I think was the first one.
Yeah, the whole music industry was going through a huge change there with, the Thatcher government, and unemployment was the highest it ever was, and, the punk movement was really starting to take off, and what Area were doing was not really relevant. So the record company just sort of bailed on it, which is unfortunate because it was great quality music with, great subject matter, but that really wasn't what the youth of that sort of time wanted. Though, the punk thing started to take over and kick all that in the butt. So it's interesting the way that Craig talks about that in his book, about the political upheaval and what the governments are doing and how that actually really affects the music that we listen to and how it's written. And I found that quite intriguing, and that's what I was talking to Craig about.
Well, some of the statistics from that period on what we promote now, I can give you some real stats there. And Mike Rudd's videos, music does okay, but the videos don't do as well. Now, we do put it down to he's quite an eclectic artist. If I was to put what we put up recently was Band of Light. Remember Band of Light, Total Union, Band of Light?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Phil Keys from La-Di-Dahs and Norm Rue and Tony Butel on drums and Ian Ryland on bass.
Wow,
and
okay.
It was a cover song, Crossroads. But we organically had 120,000 streams, views. It had, I think it was 1,100 likes. It had about 780 shares and about, I think it was 300, 400, 500 comments. Now that's huge. If you go to your Facebook, they are big numbers. And so, we looked at that, and then we look at what we did with Mike, and then we put it up against Cold Chisel. Now, Cold Chisel didn't do quite as well as that. John Farnham hasn't done quite as well as that. And I can tell you, Hoodoo Gurus, when we put a video up of Hoodoo Gurus, didn't do kind of well at all. Now, the Hoodoo Gurus are still quite big now, in a sense that their live shows, they can pull a couple of thousand people, and they know exactly what they're doing. They're on tour at the moment with one of our bands, Spy vs Spy, and Gangajang in Brazil. Wow. And they're playing to big audiences. If you have a look at our Facebook page, we have some pictures. So, but I'll take it back to where I started that, and some of the reactions that we get putting up, say, Mike Rudd, but then you have a look at Band of Light and Crossroads, and then another song of theirs, I think, another track, which I don't recall the name, which did really well too. And I've asked people this just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, what do you think? And they go, well, Mike is quite eclectic, and therefore bridging that gap is fairly difficult, putting aside that there's a massive number one there from the early days. But that sense of being eclectic makes it very difficult for some of the audience. And I think if you listen to the music and his style of guitar playing, it comes out there, I think, where it's such a unique style that he does. He has this, I've talked to him about it before, where it's this kind of picking style with a couple of strings, and it's so unique to his style, and it doesn't resonate as much across. I think it sounds fantastic. I think it just sounds great. I just love it. But does it get across to the accessible audience? Could be an issue. Yeah,
I think I like the lyrical content and the arrangement.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too.
And I think, it's very progressive in that, and it's challenging musically, I think, to be able to play that well, because the quality of players he's always had with him, from Mark all the way through to Robert, they're great players, great drummers I'm talking about. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what appeals to me. But I also like the lyrical content. I like his humour, and I like his, I wouldn't say sarcasm, but it's kind of that type of, I'd call it like a Melbourne humour as well, because I think Scott has that type of humour in their lyrics
He's
lyrical
very
content.
dry. He's very dry with his humour.
Very dry, and I think, but it's very relative as well.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
you have to sit down and listen to the music and not be distracted. I mean, these days music is wallpaper for a lot of people. It's not something that you sit down and listen to and ponder, but I enjoy doing that. The Spectrum sort of fulfills that need for me.
Oh, no, I agree. Now, a few of the other things going on at the moment, a lot of conferences going on. Big Sound next week. South by Southwest is going to come up in the future. And there's a global music conference on at the moment in New Zealand. And I've had to talk to a few people that go to these things, and we had a bit of a chuckle that, you see all the people there who've got their notebooks and they're eagerly taking notes when they're in the, conference sessions. And how much do they actually learn from that? And what can you learn? My opinion is you learn zilch. And if you need to go there to learn, to see what's going on in the business, you're not across social media and what's going on. All of that is all available online, and it's discussed a million times like we do too, Rob. And going to a conference and having what we call a love fest is a complete waste of time. What's your opinion on that?
Having been to, I won't say a lot of conferences, but I've been and I presented at conferences before. And
yeah.
It's very much a group, a collective of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word without saying it offensively, but yeah, it's always a collection of like minds talking about the work that they've done and how great it is and what they see visions for the future. That's fair enough. Well, we've got to have that. But I think, it depends who's funding them and what the agenda is behind them, specific to what particular conference you're referring to at the moment. I need to know a few more details about that. But the ones that I presented at, which are mainly music conferences and music education conferences, quite interesting, the reactions and the conversations that you listen to. And everyone's out to try and make a buck.
Well, it's money all round, isn't it? They're there to make money as a conference, and that's full stop. So, you cannot get away from that. These are not government run or, these are run to make a profit. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring up the conferences, which, as I said, I see as a complete waste of time. And it's about experience and get out there and do it. And if you're a musician, well, that's pretty easy. You make music and you put a 12-month plan together. You and me have spoken about this for quite a long time, Rob. You need a good, detailed 12-month plan with plenty of social media. Got to have good songs. And you can have a form of success. How that success rates after that and what level it goes to, you've got to be one of the lucky ones. But you can get there, and it is constant, day in, day out. Don't forget it, folks. There is no excuse for it. I have days myself where it can get difficult to apply myself to the social media that we need to do. But you've got to push through that barrier, and you must do it. No excuse for it. And Rob, you'd know that as much as anybody, wouldn't you, with all the social media you're doing? Yeah,
I'm concentrating on the YouTube thing and once again trying to get more subscribers to my YouTube channel. Working on shorts has been pretty successful and interesting for me. Yeah, I'm getting about the latest one I put up nearly up to 800 views. So
that's good. Yeah, that's good.
I'm starting to, from watching, we had a conversation about this, I think last week or the week before, about tutorials about how YouTube works and how the algorithms work and how it looks at you as if you're in the right area specific to what you're filming or talking about or presenting and going down that path. And if you have to do it more often than not, because if you only do it once every blue moon, doesn't take you seriously. But from how I gather it, if you do it every couple of days, you said to do it every day, but that's incredibly time consuming to do that. But it's starting to work for me. I've got about 14 shorts up now, and all of them are 400 to 500 to 700. The Soldiers one, the first one I put up, the Virgin Soldiers one, got to 1,200 views so quickly. So, that's good. Some of them, on like 20, 30 views. So I've sort of changed the format for what I was doing. But, good to be into the social media thing. I think it's important. YouTube is a very, very good avenue for that. But, you're up against some heavy hitters there as well, Like this Rick Beato goes on about constantly, he's every Sunday I think he does his show, but, he's in the millions and millions and millions.
Yeah. But no reason you can't be there. I mean, it's all about compelling discussions and topics. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it is.
The other thing, I was only having a chat with someone this morning in industry was about, new venues starting up. We discussed this 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they were a bit miffed on how many new venues are starting up here in Melbourne. Now, we went through the ones starting up in Adelaide, and my discussion revolved around, it's the ones that really do know what they're doing that survive through these times. It's the fringe dwellers who who really don't know what they're doing, who think they can start a venue, and they're the ones dropping off. But it's pretty, we felt it was pretty vibrant. Now, there's a cost of living crisis going on everywhere. Money is tight. People can tell you, things are great. Well, they're not great, and it is tough. But music, I think anyway, softens that blow to the human soul who's going through a cost of living crisis and gives them comfort. Now, we know that it is getting tough because our streams are going up, and that's a crazy statement, but as things get tough financially, our streams go up, and we're seeing them go up now. And I think a lot of the venues that are starting to put on free rooms are going to do extremely well too, and I think they will get a lot of punters in there. Now, whether they buy beers or not, and that's that's expensive again, buying alcohol when you're at a venue. But, it's all about being, again, having consistency in the venues and having value for money, whether it be drinks or whatever. So we went over that, and I thought things are actually looking good in the right areas. Now, I'll be interested to see what happens in Adelaide, because we did bring up some of those venues. I'll be in Sydney soon, seeing some bands play.
The Crown and Anchor got saved.
Oh, did it? Now, what was the outcome there?
Yeah, the developers are not knocking it down and developing. They had a big thing, I think that was a couple of weeks ago at Parliament House.
Yep.
Malinauskas, our Premier, got up and said, yes, we've saved the cranker, and everybody's yay. So.
And that's really important, because the Crown and Anchor is an icon in your state or in your capital city, and it really needs to be preserved. So it's a bit like the Espy here, which did get developed, but they maintain the band rooms.
Yeah.
So, we did get, they were resurrected in a sense, and there's about 3 rooms in there now, and it's a young person's place, and it's, I think, like a bit of a hip kind of place in there too, but they have their bands also. Prince of Wales still going. So, I'm extremely positive about music. The amount of new artists we've got coming onto Laneway Music is phenomenal. We can't afford to knock back artists these days. And had a discussion with some artists who were using, I think it was Bandcamp, and putting it on their posts. And I said, you can't do that. You're signed to Laneway. And I said, we don't get paid from. And I'm really blunt about this. We do not get paid from Bandcamp. So if you promote your music on Bandcamp, well, you need to look elsewhere, because Laneway is strong because it's a collective, and it's strong in numbers and can push its power. And artists that aren't earning any money, or virtually no money, can be promoted financially, I'll say that again, because the artists that are making money and that we make our money out of gives us the money to promote them. And that's really important, but you can't have it both ways. You can't then go onto sites where we don't make any money from and go, yeah, but I've always had that. Well, that's for you. You might want to go on there full time then and leave us. You cannot have it both ways. So we're in a much more powerful position these days to do that. But, we have to be cognizant that the reason Laneway can financially promote artists, and artists that are either starting or don't have a profile, is because the collective puts in. It's essentially all the artists are putting in for the artists that don't have the profile. So that's really important, and we won't shy away from it anymore. We're big enough now to not have to take anything in respect of, it's what I've always done. Well, in that case, that's what you go and do. We've had we've had some artists. We've only had like three or four artists leave us, and it was a bit, came back and said in hindsight we should never have left. And I said, yeah, you're always welcome back here. We never we're not going to bag anybody. We're always, you're welcome back. Because with Laneway, we're not about, you the artist, Rob, have the freedom to do what you want to do and how you want to do it, and that's what's really important. It's not about us telling you what to do. Now, when you are with us, yes, we're going to guide you. And what I find, this is a common issue with some of the artists, is that they ask you about the streams, why am I getting as many streams? So I go, well, if you follow my guidelines when I talk to you and say, look, this is what you need to do. They go, but I don't like doing that, or I don't like doing social media. So you can't have one without the other. You cannot have it, and that's full stop. So you either want to follow the guidelines, and because you want streams. But if you don't want streams, well, no, that's fair enough. But don't they say, well, why aren't I getting a lot of streams? So, that is a common kind of tune we hear, and I have to sit down and talk with the artists about it.
What, just on that point, you say to the artists about following the guidelines, can you sort of maybe restate some of those guidelines for our list up there?
Well, a lot of those guidelines are what you and me have spoken about in 24 episodes. And that's setting your KPIs. Where do you want to be in 12 months? And then looking at the detail that's required to get to that end point in 12 months' time. And as you and me have discussed on a lot of occasions, the detail is in every day. You need to post every day. And you need to think about the topics, and I say it quite clearly. It's a lot easier for us as a label because we have so many artists. Well, picking the topics or the different acts is so much easier. But it does become hard in a way because we now have artists who are battling to want that promotion. So we do have that kind of battle. But I do have a lot of topics because I've got a lot of artists. But when you're on your own, picking those topics or trying to develop those topics is really difficult because you have to come up with something day in, day out. Now, I say all the time, because there is a difficulty with that, why don't you think it doesn't just have to be about you, the artist? It can be topics about the industry. It can be topics about social cohesion or whatever it may be. Never political, never ever political. You might as well shoot yourself in the foot, and never religious. Keep those topics away. They don't have anything to do with music. And what we find very clearly on our social media platforms is if we move into anything like that, you've got to see the tirade that comes back. And I think where people feel very satisfied with, let's use our Facebook, is because we stay away from anything controversial. It is about music. We're about music, and that's all we talk about is music.
Yes.
So, of course, our Facebook page is extremely powerful now. Our YouTube is extremely powerful. So I think it's because we stick to our guidelines. Now, as an artist, you need to pick those topics and you every day in, day out. And if it's a band, if it's not just a solo artist, if it's a band, everybody has to have their job, so that it can't just be one person doing it all. That'll be implosion. Or it'll be that individual who's strong enough, if they're, say, the singer, well, then you're in real strife because they'll just go off and pursue their own career. So it has to be a group effort, and that, that's how hard it is. But it's no more difficult now than it was 40 years ago. In actual fact, it's simpler. And if you go across, I was only listening to a dude in the US this morning on my walk about this, and he was bringing up everything you and me have talked about, Rob, especially in those last couple of sessions we had, the last episodes, where we talked about the change in what you are and what does Spotify mean for you. and he was going through that, Spotify is simply a marketing tool for you.
It is.
And that you as an independent artist have more power than you've ever had in the past. And that is true, only if you have a plan and a detailed plan. I won't go into that detailed plan now simply because it's so deep, and we have discussed it, Rob, over 24 episodes, and that's where people need to listen, and you pick up a bit every time. And we go into specific issues in detail. But this particular chap was talking about that things have changed, and that the Spotify will find it very difficult in the future, say in the next 2 to 3 years, as artists decide to say, this was his theory, that you will have one song on Spotify. So you release your single on Spotify, but you don't release your album on Spotify. You will do that across other platforms that are more beneficial and financial to you, but you're using Spotify as the marketing tool. So there's the single on there. A bit of a hard one to understand, because I think...
What other platforms would you release?
Well, there's a lot. There'll be Laneway Red and, whatever. There's about 98 platforms, Tidal, Google Play or whatever, YouTube Music.
The music thing, they're doing a big push with that. I noticed that.
I'm just on my screen, I'm just showing people Laneway Red, which is there. Now, that being one of many platforms, and there's a lot of platforms like this. As much as I said before, the Bandcamp thing doesn't pay us. That's Laneway Music. Laneway Red is essentially a step ahead of Bandcamp, but like Bandcamp, but one step ahead. We'll have a lot more depth in what you can do and how you can market. But there you go. Now, but you go back to what he was saying was that, you will therefore use Spotify to promote yourself, but you're never going to give them everything because they don't pay you enough. So you search out the ones that do pay you enough, and then you direct your audience there. Something that I find that is very relevant to a lot of our artists, because we started as a heritage label and our audience is a lot older, I tell our artists, what you need to do, and, people need to get playlists going, and they need to get all their fans or the band need to have playlists, especially to get over 1,000 streams in that first 2 weeks. And then after that, you calm down. Don't push it as hard. But you just need to get over that. But I can see clearly that's not happening with a lot of them, and they don't do it because the numbers show they're not doing it. But when you get to a young audience, they can do that in a blink. They know exactly what you're talking about, and they go out and they do it. And it is that ability to really want the success. They want it a lot harder than an older musician. Do you see that?
I do. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background.
That's okay. That's okay. My dog's on the couch next to me. Yeah. So, they have that eagerness as a young person. They know why they want it because the world's in front of them. They think they're unbeatable. They are top. I think once you get on in life, it's a bit of a different story. And there becomes the realities of living and putting bread on the table.
Yes, there is.
So, look, I didn't answer your question, so to speak, because, it is too in-depth. What do they need to do? But, you're starting to do it all yourself. You were doing a lot of it. But you're doing now, you've gone another step, with your shorts and all that kind of stuff, and there's TikTok.
Yeah, see, I've got, when I was having a look on my phone, I've got like 90-odd clips that I film myself playing because I put up my drumming clips and, it's for education, drums, drummer, drum, rock, and all the different hashtags you put up to get into the right areas that YouTube sort of allocates is how I understand it. But the thing I was having a discussion with a student yesterday about trying to fit, because on YouTube Shorts, you've got to fit into the 60 seconds, don't you? So,
you do. You do.
I'm putting up, as I said, the most popular one that I put up, other than the Virgin Soldiers intro, but they're all songs that I've played and music, and they're practice routines that I do, and it's my approach to drumming with minimal explanation, but there is a title on the whole page. So, that seems to be working, and I haven't broken it down, but, I do, if you click on the link below the video, you'll go into the full video of it. So, there's maintaining all that, but as you said, it's a day-to-day process, and it's pretty much nearly a 4 or 5 hour job every time you have to do a full film clip. Shorts take a little bit less time to do, but there's a lot of work in doing it. especially with shorts, working it out on your phone. As I said, there's a whole different area that you've got to go into, and it's a different angle.
There's a mental dedication to pushing through the boundary when you hit the wall on it and go, oh God, I've got to do this again. And that's the successful person.
Yeah, it's like anything though, isn't it? It's, life is hard. It will beat you down, as Rocky says, but, you've got to get back up and keep going. You can't just sit there and go, poor me, because that doesn't, life just runs over the top of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I wanted to bring up was, you sent me one of your drum rudiment videos. And
I did, yeah.
All I've done is thought about it since, because I've actually got to do some recording. And I thought, my drumming is sloppy because I don't practice anymore because it's just all too hard. There's just not enough hours in the day. And I thought, I've got to get to...
Right.
Yeah, I've got to get back to Rob's rudiments, and I've got to sit there and I've got to do, and it echoes in my mind, Vince, just do 15 minutes a day, which isn't a lot. So you can, I think, make that 15 minutes enjoyable as opposed to making it torture.
But there's a bit of prep time to that, like when you say do 15 minutes, and I know most musicians will identify with this, you have to set yourself up, get ready, get your cup of tea, and then dedicate that time. But, there's the 15, 20 minutes lead up, and then you get into it, and there's mild distractions. So, half an hour's gone. It's an hour to do 15 minutes solid focused practice. I've been doing that every day. I'd still do that every day because for me that's enjoyable. That's something that I'm passionate about. It just keeps adding fuel to my fire to keep playing as a musician. It's important to have that time because you work on stuff, like as you said, you're leading up to doing some recording. So what are you going to work on? Are you going to work on playing with a click? Are you going to work on your parts? Have you got ideas for the songs that there's challenging bits? Do you play the song from start to finish without making mistakes? That's a real big one. When I did all those clips for my book and, spent a couple of years in the studio playing every one of those exercises in my book, having to play them from start to finish, whether they be a minute long or 3 minutes long, and make no mistakes, because I didn't do any drop-ins. That's a really good discipline to do. That's what we used to do in the studio when you go in to record an album. You couldn't make mistakes. Time was money.
Wow. Look, I've been thinking about your 15 minutes a day. So I do have to do it because I do have to do some recording. So I'm going to be there. But, look, just that discussion and how you talk about it there, I think is very enthuses me. And that's why I keep thinking, Rob said 15 minutes, and it's been going through my mind. And I think too, it brings a sense of you can do it. It's easy. You just got to, get in the rhythm of it. Because for someone like me, where it goes back years, and I'm so busy these days that, it just gets hard to apply yourself, even to go and just play to a song and enjoy it. And so, I need to bring that back. But anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up, Rob.
You need to put it in your schedule every day.
Yeah, and that is the important part, scheduling your day.
There
is no doubt about it. And where you're not distracted by anybody, yes. I will agree with that. So what else has been going on, Rob? Anything else exciting over there in Adelaide?
I was going to discuss last time, but we ran out of time. But the future of music, the whole AI thing, I noticed there's quite a few posts, especially on LinkedIn, about the AI thing and are you using AI to assist you in your business ventures, blah, blah, blah. But I'm talking about music and legal action from the Recording Industry Association, I think of RIAA, that's America, against Suno.
Yep.
And now the director of Suno, I think I sent you this.
You did.
And the update was Suno's mission is to make it possible for everyone to make music.
Look, you read their justification for it. Well, it's justifying them to make money, as we know. So
I think it's a very positive way to move forward. It's like all technology, and I was thinking about this before when I was making my cup of tea. I've been there since technology came in and was really, really starting in the 70s. And I've seen it come through. I've seen it come through as drum machines. I've seen it come through as sequencers. I've seen Fairlight computers, what everybody started to use in the studio. People lost sessions, things like that. It's just another version of technology used to assist us do a more creative or better job. I suppose that's a debatable point. But I just think the positive way that the director of Suno has actually put this mission statement together, I thought that was very, very good.
Mm. Well, look, I mean,
I like his Schulman.
But what's your question, Rob? Is your statement? What is your question or your statement about AI?
Well, I like how he finishes it. I'll read the last paragraph that he said. The future is an explosion of new artists that are creating new music in new ways, building fan bases, finding new reasons to smile, and getting famous. We hope that the major record labels realise that we can build a stronger foundation for the music industry of tomorrow together. With or without them, we will continue pursuing our mission on behalf of the many millions of music fans already creating on Suno. They've got 12 million people on Suno making music. And all those who will, in the coming months, we're excited and humbled to support this next generation of musicians in the music that they create. I think that's a really positive thing. And as I said, that I'm on Suno at the moment having a look at that, and they've got over 12 million subscribers. There is 12 million artists on there creating music with AI, and it's massive. There's just page after page after page that you can look into.
So,
now,
but what about AI? What do you think about AI?
I think it's a tool. It's great, but that's all it's ever going to be, is a tool. It's never going to be replacing a human. It's just something that humans can use to make themselves strive a little bit further, or, work on ideas, or help you over that little hump when you can't quite finish something. AI can give you that little bit of a push over the edge,
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm still very positive about the music business, and that people will be creative and will make music as we always have made music. Is AI going to take over? Well, if you're going to tell me AI is going to take over, I'm not referring to you, Rob, but others that say AI is going to take over, it's a bad thing, well, then the human race is going to be taken over, isn't it? It's just a matter of time.
Well, that comes back to what I was saying about Craig's reflection of, government, society, and everything reflected in the way that we make music and express it. That sort of links to that. It's like, I don't think AI will take over because we won't let it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. It's just another threat to our ecosystem of music, and you need to battle through it. I mean, we've had other threats, the threat being first from vinyl to CD, from CD to digital, from TuneCore to whatever, or Napster. And we've had all these threats to our system. And then you look at what they're saying now, free-to-air TV is being threatened, as is Foxtel with its cable subscription. Yes, that's right, because it no longer applies in this new day and age. It just doesn't. You need to move on. Free-to-air TV, to me, cannot continue to exist. I just don't believe in it anymore. What we've got, though, is we've got YouTube, which dominates, and we need, Rumble doesn't come close to it, not even a Skerrick, but we need another platform or two like that where all vision can be on there. So you can watch movies on YouTube now for free, and they're all on there, and they earn money through their advertising and yada, yada, yada. But free-to-air TV, I think it's gone. Journalism, I think, has the old style of journalism where it was in a paper, and therefore they've translated that to online. I think that's gone too. It's just going to be, it's going to be out there in the ether. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched the Julian Assange movie that was on last week, kind of like a doco on Julian Assange. I was aware of what was happening, but I didn't really think about the details of it. When I had to look about the details of his perspective on journalism and freedom of speech, I think it's very relevant, for people out there. They can make up their own minds, but that's definitely worth having a watch, because it relates to the topic you were just talking about, which is journalism and the new world of that now. And, it's critical thinking, which is being questioned as well, especially on an open platform. And I think that's what Assange is sort of, he's extreme in what his views are, but, his whole thing is world peace. I can't see that as a bad motivation for anything.
No, that's right. No, I think, but pull it back to music and, are we scared about AI? Well, not really. There is this, and the discussions I was hearing this morning too, also around there's more product, so there's more competition. And that's because Pro Tools became available to every living soul. It wasn't just for the studios or the other 50 million Pro Tools like software packages that allow people to record at home. And if they're smart enough, they can record just as good as being in a studio. Maybe need to spend a little bit more money than just Pro Tools or just the software package, but it's all achievable. Now, remember we brought this up a couple of sessions ago.
Yep.
It's supply and demand. There's too much supply and not enough demand. And that's why your income's going down. And then we get back to your music becomes your marketing tool and you are the entrepreneur as the musician. So how can you make money out of all this? Laziness will go, but I'm a musician. That's laziness. You've got to think past that because we're moving on. And if you don't move on with technology and society and where it's all going, you will get left behind. As much as I love heritage, let's call it heritage music or classic rock or whatever, you will get left behind. So you need to keep moving. That's, we've discussed it enough times. But now in the coming episodes, I want to bring up that I want to interview a couple of people with you, Rob. I've got Greg Smith, who was one of the originators down at SAFM, and you saying that you've got a lot of knowledge in that area. Because you had family members involved and whatever, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Greg Smith then went on to become programming director for the Austereo network and was a very powerful person and is now retired. And I wanted to interview him about what was happening back then, and that was a revolution because we were moving from AM to FM. And this was a huge leap. And they did revolutionise radio and listening habits. And then what's happening now, what's happened in the last 10, 20 years, going to digital. And so I wanted to talk about that and get his opinion. And then I also wanted to interview Philip Jacobson, being, Michael's right-hand man for 40 years, Michael Gadinsky, and was heavily involved in frontier touring. Essentially, that's really where he really did most of his work and can give us a lot of stories about tours that came to Australia over the last 30 years and, Premier Harbour and what's going on and he's retired, but he can give us a lot of knowledge what happened in their development and whatever. So I wanted to interview those two in the coming weeks also, Rob. Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. So that's about all I've got for today. What else have you got?
Well, that's pretty much it. I think, on the AI thing and we talk about, once again, as Beato does every week, like the promotion for me is, check out my website, have a look, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Same thing with Laneway Red. Check it out. Get on there, check the artists out. And Stuart Horner, punch up the numbers.
And let's not forget, it's all about creativity and creating more music.
Yes, daily thing.
Well, on that statement, it's been great talking to you today, and I shall talk to you next week.
Cheers, Vince.
See you, Rob.
If you enjoyed that, there's more. Just search Laneway Talks for more great conversations.